welcome back to Tea Time with TNC.
Woo!
Hey, today's guest, I have Chris Yu. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So today's chapter 22, Chris is going to be talking about his self-discovery and self-mastery. Primarily, why I reached out to Chris is because he does practice Buddhism. And yeah, so he's going to kind of share that with everyone. But I first kind of want to talk about what's in my tea today. First, I don't know if anyone noticed, I got a new mug. It's my new 2021 mug. Yay! Happy New Year! Party!
We did it! We did it!
You're my first guest of the new year, so that's exciting.
Thank you, thank you.
But today I am drinking typical white wine, nothing major, but I was not feeling the tea today. But Chris, what are you drinking with us?
I had warm water in my mug, but since this is a alcohol-friendly type of show, I got myself some gin in a teacup because I don't have a shot glass. So this is just some.
There you go.
Just some gin.
Yeah.
So there we go.
All right. So, Chris, can you please go through your journey with us on how you went through the self-discovery and self-mastery and who you are today? But
yeah.
Real quick. Fun fact, I want to let all my viewers know. I met Chris when he was 18, when he just graduated high school.
Fresh.
Literally a little
the fall after.
Yeah. Like a little baby. We met at Disney. And fun fact, him and I dated for a hot minute. And I was like this old lady at 25, 26, couldn't even drink with him. But years later, it's really great to see what, how a man that you've grown up to be. And I'm really excited that you're on my show. So I want to thank you again for being here. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and take it from there.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you so much for having me. And I'm really excited to be here as well. So a little bit about myself. I practice Buddhism. I am a part of this organization called the Soka Gakkai International. Soka Gakkai is Japanese. It means Value Creation Society International. Started in Japan, but it's all around the world, 192 countries and territories around the world. And we practice this form of Nichiren Buddhism. So I'm not going to make this a whole lecture about the history of Buddhism because one, I couldn't, and two, I don't think it's what you're looking for anyways. But Nichiren Daishonin was this Buddhist monk in 13th century Japan who was studying all of the teachings of the first historical Buddha, which is Shakyamuni, aka Siddhartha, aka the prince from India. We all learned in our world history books in fourth grade, right? And so in Nichiren Buddhism, actually, the Buddha is not a god or a deity or anything like that, but rather the Buddha is a potential we have within ourselves. So actually, we're all Buddhas, regardless of we're a man or a woman, we're rich or poor, whether we're gay or straight, anything in between, whether we're a criminal or someone with a clean record. We're all Buddhas. We all have this potential within our life. So in this Buddhism that I practice, we're working on transforming ourselves and bringing out this Buddha nature within ourselves. And it's essentially this philosophy of becoming the best person we can be. And how that's really influenced me is that I am the youngest of three children on my mom's side. And this is the family I grew up with. So my sister was 9 years older than me. And my brother is 13 years older than me. Yeah. So
maybe.
Yeah, very much so. So growing up, they weren't really like siblings. They were more like extra parents. And I felt this, and they did really well growing up. They went to good colleges, got great jobs straight out of college, moved and did their own thing, and have been out since, out of the house since. So I've been seeing them 3 or 4 times a year at most ever since I was young. It's more like 2 to 3, to be honest, right? Yeah. And so growing up, because they did so well, and because we didn't have a lot of money, I felt this immense pressure to do well, myself. And as I got older, I really started basing my own identity, how I saw myself, based on my accomplishments, based on the friends I had, based on what type of girlfriend I had, how well I was doing in school, if I was in good shape, all of these things. And that really messed with me, because when you are basing your identity on things outside of yourself, things that maybe you can't always control, life is just really hard, and it's hard to love yourself or care for yourself or, challenge yourself in that way, because maybe you have high highs, but I also had very low lows as well. So this is where the self-identity and self-mastery comes in, is that I feel like through the course of my life, with the assistance of my Buddhist practice, I learned to really embrace and appreciate who I am, and to really love and care for myself. And because of that, I've also learned the self-mastery comes from, I think, mastering my own mind, mastering my own negativity, because it's not that I'm this happy-go-lucky, positive person all the time. It never rains on my parade. That's not true. But I think I've gone to a point where even if it's raining, I can still, in my heart feel like, well, the sun is there somewhere. So I just have to wait this out. I just have to see this through, because the sun will shine. I think that level of confidence and conviction is something that I've acquired over the years. So that's not a super short version, but that's a short version of kind of who I am.
So would you consider that as like hope and faith?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of aspects to it. Definitely hope is a part of it. Having hope as a person, having faith in yourself. Even though I do practice Buddhism and I am religious, I think faith for me, faith in my practice ultimately comes down to faith in ourselves, faith in our own potential, right? And that can be confidence, that can be our own passion, whatever drives us to kind of get out of bed in the morning as well. But I will say, I think there's other things as well, other aspects that tie into it, right? Like having courage, having compassion for yourself and for other people, having wisdom to know what's right and wrong. So, yeah.
And do you think you have mastered this self-discovery, or is this something that you are going to be faced with or challenged with or going through the rest of your life?
Yeah, I've totally mastered it. And if you want to learn, I have a course that you can take for 6 weeks for $25.99. Just kidding. Can you imagine? I'd be like the worst type of freaking person. I'd be like Ty Lopez, like, here are my Lamborghinis, and I've learned to master my mind. People would probably eat that up. No offense to Ty Lopez. I'm sure he's a great guy. But anyways, I think the idea of mastery is interesting, because it implies that there's a destination, right? Like a master at something is like leading expert. They've hit the pinnacle. And I think it's more like the second thing you said, where it's more of this ongoing process, where I'm more so working on that mastery aspect, working on my self-identity, working on my own self-mastery every day until I die. I don't think they'll ever get to a point where I'll be like absolutely perfect, check mark, things will be good. I will get better at it, of course, but I think it's a lot more fluid. It's not like a destination based. Yeah.
Okay. So now can you dig a little bit deeper about the self-discovery? And yeah, I know you talked about your siblings and that kind of helped you where you are today, but I kind of want you to dive a little bit deeper into that journey with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was 18, right before I turned 19, a few months before I turned 19, I found out that my father is not my biological father. And my last name is Yu, which is Chinese. So technically my stepfather, but just for all intents and purposes, I'll continue to call him my father. And then I'll call my biological father, just to make that clear. Yeah. So my, biological father is actually Afghan. So he's from Afghanistan. And the reason why I didn't find out until I was 18 is that I was contacted by my biological father. Excuse me. I didn't know who he was. I just knew of him because he was kind of like a family friend / person that worked for my family, like in our family business when that was still around. And so I knew of him, but he contacted me. And because I knew of him, I knew his name, I just automatically assumed that he wanted money because my dad Mr. U, if you will, just owes a few people money. Not like the mafia or the triads or anything like that.
Hey, no judgment.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'm not like a wanted man or anything. But anyways, so initially I was thinking this gentleman that was calling me was asking for money. And so then I called my mom and I said, hey, he called, what's up? And my mom was like super shady. And she said, I'll tell you this weekend. And she said this weekend because at the time I was living on campus at Cal State Fullerton. So I would see her that weekend because we'd have lunch or whatever. We'd catch up. So I was like, okay, that's weird. So I was walking to class. He called me when I was still in my dorm room. I was walking to class with my good friend, Zach. And I was saying, oh man, this guy called, probably asking for money, but my mom gave me a really shady answer, and I don't know why. And he said, yeah, that's weird. And I was like, whatever. So we're walking to class. Before class, I go use the bathroom. And I go to the bathroom, and after I'm done with my business, I'm washing my hands. And I'll never forget this moment. I was washing my hands, and I looked up in the mirror, and I was like, oh. Like, it was so crazy, right? I was like, what if?
Like, you had an aha moment.
I had a genuine light bulb moment, and then, yeah, it was insane. So then I'm washing my hands, and I go, Zach, what if he's my biological father? He's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, this makes sense, dude. I was like, look at me, Zach. There ain't no Chinese in me. My mom's Taiwanese, so maybe that's why I have these, I have my mother's eyes, But I was like, that would explain everything, right? And anyways, long story short, again, later that week, I was at work at Disney at that time. And I called my mom. This is right before the weekend, so right before she was going to tell me. And, I asked, I was like, you just answer this question. Is he asking for money? And she said, no. And I was like, I have all. So fast forward a few days, it's that weekend. And at that time, she was still living with my dad, right, Mr. U. And so we go into the car in the parking lot and we talk. And then she tells me that, who my biological father really is. And, my mom is genuinely one of the greatest people I know because of how strong she is, but also how loving and caring she is. And because she's like crying because she feels like guilty. And I'm like not mad or anything because I understand that's, like having a love child, bastard child. My biological father was married at the time. My mom was married at the time. My mom married really young. She got married when she was in her early 20s and came to the States when she was 22. So she was very young. And my biological father was married through an arranged marriage. So very kind of like cultural thing, right? So when they met each other, they actually fell in love and they had, me, right? And so of course I wasn't mad because it's like, yeah, how could you not keep this a secret? But anyways, so starting from 18, I really started to grapple with what is my purpose in life. And I also had to deal with this cultural identity as well. Because at the time, my biological father was in Afghanistan working as a translator for the U.S. Army at Bagram Air Force Base. So I finally got to meet him last year in 2019. I got to meet him actually on Father's Day weekend because he's finally back in the States, retired more or less, and he lives with his wife, and he has 3 kids, my half-siblings. And what's amazing is that on the U side of the family, I'm the youngest of 3, but on that side of the family, there's my brother, Johnny. We're the same age. And then I have a younger sister and a younger brother. So I'm more like a middle child.
Wow, but that's crazy. Okay, so did Mr. U know about your biological father?
No, he so that side of the family, that's a great question. The U side of the family has no idea. The only people that know are now your entire audience, of course, my closest friends, My siblings, my sister and my older sister, my older brother, my girlfriend, of course, things like that. But and then my cousin. But in terms of like my dad, my aunt, my uncle, they don't know at all.
Wait, still after all these years?
Still after all these years. I'm sure they probably have some idea, right? Because obviously when you look at a family photo, you're like, look at these two, my sister, my brother. Look at, who is this? Who is this dude with this beard and this nose? What the fuck, right? But
can I real quick? Okay, just because I have to say this. So,
yeah.
I don't even know if you remember any of this, but when Chris and I dated, I was such a bitch. I was young. I was 25, 26. I was in my prime. I was a mess. And I remember I used to tell you, I used to be like, Chris, you're not Asian. You'd be like, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And I used to be like, no, you're not. Like, I'm sorry, but you're not. And you used to be, I can't believe I was so blunt with you, but surprise, I'm very blunt anyway. Telling you, like, Chris, no, I'm sorry, but like, you're not. And I remember when you found out, I felt like the worst person in the world. I was like, fuck, I knew it, but this still doesn't make me feel any better. Like, damn.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so good. Yeah, so they don't know, and they probably won't find out maybe for some time, just because they're really conservative, like Chinese people. So for them to, figure out that, for them to know that, for sure that I'm, my mom essentially cheated on her husband at the time, blah, 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 right? I think would be very bad. They probably would just never talk to us ever again. So that's something that I still want to work on, because ultimately one day I'm going to get married. Hopefully it's to my amazing girlfriend that I'm with right now. And I would like my biological father and that whole side of the family to be at the wedding. But, that might be a little weird, right? Because then the you side of the family is going to be like, who are all these people? And like, where, and like, how do they know you and things like that. So
do you look like your siblings from your biological father's side?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of. I look more like them than I do with my older sister and my older brother, yeah. So basically, my eyes are kind of similar to my mom's, but my nose and everything else is very similar to my dad's when he was my biological father when he was younger. But what's interesting is that my height comes from my mom's side, which is Taiwanese, my Taiwanese side, which is surprising, but
Well, for those of you that don't know Chris, how tall are you?
I'm about 6'2", I guess. Yeah.
That's crazy. So are you taller than your biological father?
Yes. So the height comes from my mom's side. So my grandpa is actually very tall. Like my mom's dad is like pretty tall. So that's where it came from. Because the whole time I thought it was from my biological father's side. So when I met my brother on that side of the family, and he was like, "Man, you got the height from your mom." Like he was like, I didn't get any of that shit. So I was like, oh, so maybe it's from the Taiwanese side. So yeah.
That's so cool. I know we kind of went on a segue, but that was kind of exciting to hear all of that. Okay, so now that you have met your biological father, you have having the self-discovery, what continues it? Like what practices? I know, you already talked about what you study and what you practice, but can you kind of go into that now and what actually you do to find that self-love and, that peace that we all know and love about you?
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. I think it comes down to two things. One, like you said, is the daily practice. So for me, in my practice of Buddhism, we chant this mantra or phrase, which is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And Nam means devotion to, Myoho means mystic law, Renge means lotus, and kyo means sutra. And if we're talking about what it means, right? I devote myself to the mystic law of the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra is the teaching of the Buddha that states that everyone has this Buddha nature, regardless of who you are and where you come from, which is very mind-blowing, I think, to look at. We're all equal. We're all the same. Even in 2021, the 21st century, we still haven't really grasped that. We're still dealing with inequality and racism and prejudice. So for this to have come out, hundreds of years ago is mind-blowing. So I chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo every day, every morning and every night. And I chant, and when I'm chanting, I'm kind of thinking about the things that I want to accomplish and essentially what I need to pull out of my life, what I need to pull out of my heart to accomplish it. So maybe there's some tasks I need to do, and maybe I'm feeling a little lazy. This is kind of, maybe smaller, basic stuff, right? So maybe I just need some courage or determination. So I'll chant with this conviction to get myself kind of hyped up, Or maybe there's something that I'm really not sure what to do, I'm not sure what decision or action to take. So I'll chant really thinking about, that wisdom that I need. So it's a bit more active versus meditation, where meditation, you're more about clearing, the mind and letting thoughts kind of flow on like a river, right? Which is great, and it works for a lot of people. And it's not that, you can chant and also meditate. I used to meditate before as well, especially when I was in school. That's something we just did for our performing classes. But chanting is more about getting engaged with the universe, getting engaged with your own life, And so I chant every morning and every night. And we also recite portions of the Lotus Sutra as well. All of this information can be found on the sgi-usa.org website, just so in case there's, anything else anyone wants to hear about. But for me, chanting,
Hey, one more time.
Oh, yeah. So sgi-usa.org. Okay. And then you'll find basics of Buddhism, experiences of people, concepts, things like that. So that's kind of the, practical aspect of what I do, of chanting and things like that. And then the other thing that I feel like is important is that we all have to, and this is not necessarily a strictly Buddhist concept, but it can be found in Buddhism, is that we're all on this earth for a reason, and we're all here for a purpose. And what that purpose is in my practice is ultimately world peace. And world peace does not look like, we all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, although that would be pretty dope. And I don't know how that would logically be possible. But in our practice, world peace is also is called Kosen Rufu. Kosen Rufu means to propagate widely. That does not mean we're gonna, everyone becomes a Buddhist and start chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo and we're gonna dominate the world. It's not that. But the core concept of I'm gonna respect you regardless of who you are, regardless of what you've done, because you have this potential within you, this Buddha. That's the philosophy we want to share, is that each person's life is precious. Each person's life is beautiful and and is valuable because they have that mission. So I think ultimately that's what I'm working toward as well, is what can I contribute to the world for the sake of world peace? So for me, I'm more of an artist and a creative person. So what can I do to maybe bring certain issues to the light, to just, contribute to the art community, and to also just be a good brother, a good boyfriend, a good friend, a good employee, things like that. So ultimately, being the best version of yourself is just the first step, right? It's the why behind that. Why do you want to be the best version of yourself? And I believe, and and it comes from my practice, it's because we're meant to encourage and inspire other people as well. We're meant to uplift other people as well. And when we do that, we will then slowly over time, this ain't going to happen overnight. So, but over time, we'll learn to completely, overcome these prejudices that we have, right? This hate we have towards the other people, especially if it's based on prejudice and racism itself, or maybe if it's based on because of what they've done in the past. I think being able to care and respect ourselves is the first step to being able to care and respect other people. But I don't think you can just do one and then do the other. I actually think you have to do both at the same time. Both kind of feed into each other, So ultimately, that's what I'm trying to do. I have my Buddhist practice where I chant and I engage in the Buddhist community. But also, I'm working on figuring out what is my purpose on this planet. What am I here to do? And part of that is just being the best version of myself that I can. So, yeah.
So you would say that would be your purpose, is just being the best version?
Yeah, because I think part of it is I want to be not just an artist, but someone that can just contribute to society. So maybe that's education. Maybe that is an art, I don't know. It's probably going to be like a few things, because I'm that type of person where, I have all these like passions and things I like, and I want to be able to, give back and do things in that field. So in a very general way, 100%, it's to be the best version of myself. And then it's up to me to discover what that really means and what I'll do with it. Yeah.
What I love so much, because especially like you said, times right now, especially, 2020 with everything that had happened, we really need to stop judging, and we really need to be open-minded and love people as people. And I know that's something that I've always been super big on, but I kind of grew up a judgy person. Now being an adult, I realized I got it from my mother, because my mother is very judgy. I mean, for instance, I confessed some things with my mom most recently, and my mom just kind of went off on me. And, sometimes I feel like, oh, am I good enough for her? Am I what she, wished for me to be? Am I a good enough daughter for her? And I know she loves me, and I know she loves me unconditionally, but my mom is very judgy. I mean, when I go visit home, I'll watch, some TV show with her, and my mom's talking shit about their hair or their makeup or what they're wearing. And I'm like, I've always been that way. I've always, judged people based off their appearance, because that's how I was. I grew up as a dancer and then a hairdresser. And so I've always been around stuff like that. And now I'm like, I want to stop doing that. And I want to, everyone has a backstory, right? Everyone has a story as to why they're wearing those shoes, or why, their hair looks like that, or why, their makeup might not look as good. And I never used to think that way. I was right away like, fuck, like, let me help that girl out. Like, her makeup's a hot mess. And now I'm trying to become more spiritual and think like, oh, like, I wonder if maybe she didn't have a mother who taught her how to do her makeup. Maybe she doesn't even have the money, and she has to go buy, no offense to 99-cent store, but maybe she has to go buy some 99-cent store makeup. I mean, all these things that I never had thought about before. And it takes a lot of soul searching and figuring out and putting yourself out there and being empathetic and really putting yourself into someone else's shoes to be that way. And I think the hardest thing right now, especially, is people aren't doing that. People aren't being empathetic. People only see tunnel vision, right? They only see what's right in front of them and not what's on the outside. And I think that's what's so hard and frustrating, where like we would be a happier place. We would be at peace. We would be more at harmony if people, sorry, we just hit our 30-minute mark. But we would be in harmony. And it's so funny because everyone knows I love trolls. I actually wish I had it. I wish I had it in front of me, but there's a quote in Trolls World Tour who says that, because if you haven't seen the movie, Poppy's whole entire movie is saying how they're all the same. They're all the same. All trolls are the same. And they're trying to explain to her, like, no, we're not the same. We're all different. And so at the end of the movie, she comes up with saying, we can all live in harmony, but by being our own individual selves. And I like wrote that quote down because I was like, it's so true. Like, we can all be who we are, but, we have to still have the end goal of being that love and being at that peace and understanding that, like, we just want to make the world a better place. And it's not just about me. It's not just about you. It's not just about your neighbor. It's about the entire world.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Sorry, I had to throw that trolls in there, you know?
No, I mean, trolls is always relevant all the time. So anytime you can just sprinkle that trolls knowledge in, it's super good.
All right. Well, as we're coming up to our kind of close, there was something that I wrote down that you had said during our little overview: change poison into medicine. That really kind of stuck out to me. Can you kind of explain that?
Yeah. So there's this not really Buddhist concept, but something we talk about changing poison into medicine, and that essentially is that when we encounter obstacles in our life, how can we use those to benefit ourselves? So it's really about where's your mindset and perspective at. So obviously, bad things are going to happen to us. And it's not this sense of positivity where we're just only looking at the good stuff, not addressing the bad, but it's about looking at the bad stuff and not being, swayed or rocked by it. So things are going to happen, right? And so let's take one of the worst things that can happen, right? So someone very close to you passes away. Right. And it's something that you can't control. Maybe it was an accident, maybe they got sick or what have you. Right. So how would you transform that poison into medicine? Part of it is that because they passed away, you yourself determine, that you're going to, one, live a life that they will be proud of. Right. That you won't be brought down. It's important to grieve. It's important to process all those things. And it's very much okay to be sad. Like we should experience all these emotions 100%, and then afterwards, what sort of determination, do we have afterwards when things are bad, And so let's say if someone passes away, let's say if my mom passed away, or if my girlfriend passed away or my friends passed away or what have you, right? Do I have this determination that I'm going to live a life, that's just so full of, value and positivity and joy that they're going to be absolutely, proud of me, right? Like I'm going to live in honor of them. Or maybe it's, maybe we get fired. Maybe we lose our job, maybe it's because of the pandemic, or maybe we get let go, or what happens, right? So then do we say, you know what, because I had that job, I was comfortable, I was stable, I wasn't going after my dreams because they were scary. So fuck it, I'm going to go after my dreams now, right? And so it gives us, that maybe that kick in the ass we wouldn't have had otherwise, because our tendency is that once we're comfortable and stable, we're like, no, this is good, man. I don't ever want to rock the boat. Even if we're unhappy, we would much rather be comfortable and unhappy than uncomfortable and happy, right? That's just kind of our tendency. But really deep inside, I think we all want to be happy and fulfilled. So part of changing poison into medicine is, when something happens, how do we change it? How do we see the value in that? So, yeah.
Okay, great. So is there anything that you want to say? I know you said you were looking for a quote. I don't know if you'd like to share that with us.
Yes, I have this quote. This is from Nichiren Daishonin, who is the founder of this Buddhist practice. And all of his writings are online at nichirenlibrary.org. But honestly, it's kind of hard to read. So just because of it's very because he was trying to really state the philosophy of this practice, right? It's very much deep in Buddhist terminology and philosophy. So if you like that, I suggest to go check it out. But if not, just head to the sgi-usa.org website for a bit more kind of practical everyday things. But anyways, it's just one sentence, but I think it's very powerful. And it's, iron, when heated in the flames and pounded, becomes a fine sword. And when I read this, it makes me realize that, when we face adversity and when we face challenges, that's when we're able to forge and kind of sharpen our life, using the sword analogy, right? So whether we're going through a challenge or whether we're avoiding a challenge, we're, as long as we know that we have to experience this to become better people, to get closer maybe to our goals or our dreams. I think that's the most important thing. So sometimes we suffer through things, right? We're put through hard circumstances and we're like, fuck, why me? I'm a good person, you know? And we don't suffer because we're bad people. We suffer so that way we can learn the lesson behind it, and we can also help other people who go through that as well. So let's say if, you know, going back to what was shared earlier, if someone we know passes away, if we're able to see, you know, the value behind that, understand that why, then when a friend of ours maybe has someone close to them pass away, we can go and comfort them, right? We're able to have like you shared earlier, right? That sympathy, or we can be empathetic towards them as well, right? So that's if we're going through something. If we're avoiding something that we have to go through, which is me all the time, right? Then we're essentially, you know, avoiding the opportunity to see what we're really made of, you know? And if you ask me, Chris, do you just want to be some iron stuck in a mountain, not doing anything? Or do you want to be like a sword, something that's strong that, you know, can be of service to people or whatever, right? I'd much rather be the sword, you know? And so I think part of our own life is that we have to challenge ourselves, and we have to do it knowing it's all going to come back to our mission, our purpose, our why, the why we get out of bed every morning. It's important to do that as well. So not in the sense that it's important to suffer, but it's important to challenge ourselves, right? We can challenge ourselves optimistically with the sense of, man, this sucks, but when I get through it, I'm going to really break through. You know, I'm going to really overcome something in my life maybe I've never challenged before. You know, it all just comes down to where our life is at, our attitude. So anyways, that's a quote that I try to remind myself of very often when I'm going through it. You know, when I feel like I'm being pounded by life, I know it's because I'm working on transforming something, you know, that I want to accomplish. So yeah.
And I love that, because I just want to share with everyone. So during Chris and I's overview, I was venting to him about some stuff that's happened in my life. And he told me, think of it this way. Think of you as being, you know, the main star in a movie. That main star in the movie goes through hell and back before they have their self-discovery, or they discover whatever they were destined to be. And that really hit home with me. And Chris, I don't know if you remember you telling me, you're like, I'm really sorry that you're going through that, but I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh fuck, like you just were so fucking like straightforward, but it's true. And you even made the comment, you're like, TR, even though you've gone through all of that, you're gonna share that story, you're gonna help someone. And it really, now you because you didn't tell me the quote that day, but now hearing the quote, now I can see why that is your philosophy and that is how you think. And I didn't tell you this earlier, but like you sharing that with me and telling me about being the main star in my own story, like it really hit home and it meant so much, and it's honestly has helped me have that hope and faith, because I am someone who, I mean, I will be completely honest with everyone. I don't have hope and I don't have faith. Like, it's just, and that's why I had reached out to you like months ago, you know, trying to ask about, you know, the Buddhist practice and everything, because I'm not a religious person. I did grow up Catholic. My dad was a Jehovah Witness. So my entire, you know, childhood, it was very tough. My mom's Catholic, my dad's Jehovah. Complete day and night opposites. I have this really big thing about death. I mean, I don't want to get into it because I can go on and on about it, but it's been really hard for me to find faith and hope in anything that happens, because I have gone through so much fucking shit in my life, right? But you even sharing that little bit with me has sparked a little bit of hope and a little bit of faith that I have to believe that there is a light at the end of this tunnel, that there is something greater for me out there. Because I've been telling people the last year through my self-discovery is that I know damn well I'm destined for greatness. I know it. I feel it. Like it's something that just kind of grew over me. Like maybe like a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't really remember. And I just really felt it. And someone asked me, well, how do you how are you going to know when you get there? Is it going to be like an accomplishment? Is it going to be, you know, and I was like, is it going to be a job? Is it going to be, and I was like, honestly, it's going to be a feeling. Just how I felt that I had my aha moment, like, oh my God, like this isn't it. This isn't it for me. I feel like I'm going to have that too. You know, when I'm at my greatest, I'm not going to say my peak, because I don't believe in that, but when I feel my greatness, I will feel it. And that's probably the only thing that's been giving me the hope this entire, 2020 year is like, no, I'm not done. I'm not done fighting. I'm not done, through my self-discovery journey, because I haven't hit my greatness yet. And I fucking know it's there. I know it in my heart. I know it in my soul. I feel it in my fucking bones that I'm destined to do something so much bigger than what I was doing. I don't know what that is, but I know it. And, yeah, long story short, I just want to say thank you so much for, giving me that little small glimpse of hope and faith in my life, and continue doing what you're doing, because you're doing such an amazing job. And I mean, you just radiate positivity, and you radiate this amazing energy. And Chris, you literally are one of my favorite people, even though we haven't talked in years, literally years. I just want you to know that I respect you, and I think so highly of you, and you are literally just an amazing spirit to be around. And that's why I wanted you on this. I wanted you on the show. I wanted you to help me inspire my viewers, and I think that's my, my purpose is to help people. And I wanted to bring you along that journey.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah, so much for everything you shared. And, I will say this, I think part of it is not, for me, the behind this is that, there's a whole community behind me. There's, of course, my family, there's the Buddhist community, there's my friends, things like that. And everyone has something like that. It doesn't have to be large, but everyone has someone or people that are in your corner behind you. And I think it's important to be close with those people to be able to contribute to their life as much. So I think being a good friend is just so important, because then you meet people, such as yourself, that are able to go on this journey together with you. And then the other thing is that whether, I shared a lot of Buddhism related stuff earlier. And so the whole thing, what'll also help, I feel, for other people that maybe just aren't looking for religion, because they're fine with whatever they are, or maybe they just don't like religion, that they don't want to engage, and that's fine too. But for me, I personally read a lot of Daisaku Ikeda, who's a philosopher. He's actually the president of the SGI, but he's written so many books about Buddhist philosophy and how it translates to other things like death, like spirituality, with other things. And, he has a lot of books with other kind of great thinkers and scientists and engineers about, other things and how it ties into this thing called life. And of course, he comes from a Buddhist perspective, but I think being able to tie in, other parts of life and why life is so beautiful is important as well. So I say all this in case there's anyone that wants to do research but maybe isn't looking for religion, but just looking for more resources. There's that as well. And then the last thing, I guess, if I could say real fast, is, regardless of whatever it is we've been through, regardless of whatever it is we're going through right now, I hope that every single one of us can just take that, step forward to really deeply appreciate and love ourselves. I don't have, any concrete solutions about what that means for you, but, or anyone else, right? But I hope that we can all take that step for ourselves. I think just that determination alone of, I'm going to go after my dreams. I'm going to be better to myself. I'm going to pick up that phone and call that person I haven't talked to, or maybe I need to apologize for this or that or whatever. I think just from there, we never know what will happen afterwards. So regardless of where everyone is, I hope, maybe after hearing this and, Tiara's experience and her story, we can all at least feel like, yeah, you know what, why not? Fuck it. Today, I'll take one step in that direction. What's the worst that can happen, right? So, because then ultimately, here's the key. Every day just becomes that one step. And then it's natural for you, So, yeah.
No, and that's true, because my whole philosophy is I don't want to live my life with regrets. I mean, like my tattoo says, die with memories, not dreams. And I don't ever want to dream of doing something and not accomplishing it. I know that I keep going and going, but there was a YouTube video I was shown when I was on character side as a lead. And I can't even tell you who it was, what it was, but it was talking about, you go to a cemetery and you stand there and you look at all the, headstones and stuff, and you think, how many of these people didn't finish that book? How many people didn't finish writing that song? How many people didn't finish, school, or, whatever they had dreamed of doing? How many of those poor people that did not accomplish that goal for whatever reason, for whatever excuse, for whatever happened? And like that, when I watched that or listened to that video, I was like, fuck, like that is so true. And I never want to be that way. You honestly don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but that's what I tell my husband, and I tell anyone I'm close in contact with. This is why I push my limits. This is why I push my boundaries. This is why I try to live my life to the fullest, because I don't want to be buried that way. I don't.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't want to go all dark and deep, but all right, Chris, do you have anything else to say before we finish up today?
No, not anything specific. I just really want to say, thank you again for, not just having me on, but for just having this platform. So, thank you. And, let's see what 2021 brings, and, that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And what about your podcast?
Oh, great plug there. I legitimately forgot. Yes, I have this podcast. It's called the Chris for You podcast because I'm very original. But it's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. It's on SoundCloud. Please go check it out. It's called the Chris for You podcast because I just talk about a lot of things that interest me. So it's just a podcast on all things cultural. Come on in and enjoy.
Yeah, super exciting, and congratulations on doing that too. That's really exciting and good. And yeah, all right. Well, I guess that's pretty much it today. I want to thank everyone for watching chapter 22 with Tea Time with T and C. Let's do our last cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching Tea Time with T, chapter 22, self-discovery and self-mastery. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.